All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, how to have a better marriage in 2025. So we're coming up on the new year. If your goal is to have a better marriage this year, which is a great goal, we can help you with that. And we'll talk about how today. So my name is Mike Frazier, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach. I help high-achieving, hardworking Christian men have more intimate marriages. So here's some wins from guys in my program, the Strong Men, Strong Marriages program. Guys are having better conversations with their wives. They're feeling more connected, knowing how to talk about things in a more productive way versus having fights or problems and that kind of thing. Guys are being better parents. When you learn how to have better relationships with God, with yourself, with your wife, that translates to your kids too. Being able to listen, be there for them better, manage your own emotions better. Okay, you're a better parent because of that. Guys are sharing kisses with their wives. One guy shared he was able to share a great Christmas kiss with his wife, which was awesome. Guys are just feeling more calm, more confident overall, feeling empowered instead of out of control or having problems feeling like they don't have any power in their marriage. Instead, they're feeling empowered. For me, I did this kind of like spiritual healing thing. I'm going through this book called The Emotion Code. Talks about how emotions can get trapped in our bodies. So I went to someone that practices that and had a really cool experience, some good emotional releases there. And the next day, I had one of the best days I've had with my oldest son in a long time. On Christmas Day, it was a great Christmas. I feel like a lot of those kind of negative, angry emotions just aren't really there as much now, which is really cool. It's something I'm really grateful for. And that translates to a better relationship with him, with all my kids, with my wife. So it's awesome. So right now, if you're trying to have a better marriage with your wife, maybe you're trying happy wife, happy life. Okay, I'm going to do everything my wife wants. That's going to make her happy. Eventually, it should be her turn to make me happy with attention, appreciation, affection, sex. So I'm going to keep trying to do this stuff to make her happy. Cook, clean, do the dishes, make the money, do pretty much everything in the hopes that sometimes she'll return it. If you've subscribed to this policy, you're probably like a people pleaser guy. You've kind of had that most of your life. And it works pretty much everywhere except your marriage. And it's hard. That's hard to see. Because you feel like, man, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, but it's just not working. It's frustrating. You can feel trapped in your marriage. This is how I felt like I was in my marriage for a long time. Maybe you're doing the mosquito cycle, and we've talked about that, but it's kind of runs right alongside happy wife, happy life. You do quote unquote nice things for your wife. Again, cook, clean, make money, take care of the kids, do all that stuff. And then you're, hoping that in return you get attention, appreciation, affection, sex, at least a thank you sometimes. You don't get it, you start getting frustrated, and then you either explode or escape. You get mad, you say, man, like I'm doing all this for you, why wouldn't you do anything for me? Or if you're not going to be confrontational like that, you escape into pornography or work or just not being in the house as much or spend more time with the kids, or maybe drugs or alcohol, or maybe you start talking to another girl who maybe understands you better. So that's what an escape would look like. Then eventually you feel bad about that. You start trying to do nice things for your wife again, and the cycle repeats. And then you get frustrated again, and just is hard, right? You can turn into a dictator where you're just like, okay, like this is how it has to be. I'm tired of this. You need to shape up. You need to start cooking the meals. You need to start taking care of the kids. I'm doing enough, right? And yeah, just again, having those explosions or escapes that hurt your wife, hurt your marriage. If you're watching the video on YouTube, I have a little graphic of it here. But again, do nice things for your wife, expect attention, appreciation, affection, sex back, get fresh when you don't get it, then you explode or escape. You feel guilty after. You start doing nice things for your wife again. It just repeats. So maybe you've even tried doing some therapy. You've gone to therapy either with your wife or on your own. Maybe you've done counseling. Maybe you've done men's groups. You've gotten involved in men's groups at your church or with business or with other things. Or maybe you've talked with church leaders who have maybe told you to pray more or to maybe they've told this has happened, some of the couples I've worked with, they've told the wife, well, just start having more sex with your husband. She's not too into that. And so you're even more frustrated because someone told her to do what you want her to do. She's still not doing it. It seems like a ripoff, right? And for Christian guys too, especially if you like saved yourself for marriage and you're not having sex in your marriage, it really feels like a ripoff because it's kind of like, man, God promised me if I live the law of chastity, I could have a wife and enjoy sex regularly, and I'm not, and that's not fair, right? God's ripping me off, my wife's ripping me off. It just seems like, yeah, you got screwed over. Men's groups too, they can be pretty good, but sometimes don't really know how to address having a better marriage, or they don't have like the foundations that you need to, um, create a better marriage. Maybe they can commiserate with you and say, "Oh yeah, I've got that same problem," or maybe they're like, "Well, just go on more date nights." The problem with going on more date nights when you already have some pretty significant strain in your marriage, or if you really don't have much communication, or you're fighting a lot, is when you have one-on-one time together, you tend to just fight, right? And so the date night doesn't really do that much, or it's just kind of quiet and you're not talking about anything. You just are repeating the same patterns. So unless you change the patterns, the date nights, the one-on-one time isn't going to do much. It'll just be more of the same, but in a different setting. Or a vacation, right? Same deal. Like, yeah, you can go on a vacation, but if you don't understand how to communicate well with your wife, and how to stand up for yourself, and how to feel connected to God, like, going on a vacation is just going to accentuate all that. It's not going to make it better. Okay. Therapy, counseling, sometimes they're good. Sometimes they end up just like blaming your wife for things. They don't really point out what you need to change. Couples counseling works for some people it doesn't. So if you're doing all that and it's not working, right? There's various reasons. So part of it's just like a lack of coherence. So you're getting things from lots of different sources, and you might hear, do this one place, do this the other place, and they contradict. Oh, take your wife on date nights. Don't take your wife on date nights. Talk about the hard things. Don't talk about the hard things. Serve your wife. Stand up for yourself, right? So it can feel confusing. You also have a lack of focus because you don't have like one place or one source that you're coming from. The other big one is a lack of practice. So, like, if you're going to therapy or things like that, maybe you learn something, maybe you don't. A lot of times it's worth just listening. But let's just say you go to someone who teaches you a skill. Um, you may not be practicing it, okay, during the week. It's like, I took piano lessons for a long time, and the weeks I would practice, I'd get better. The weeks I didn't really get better. And that was like a once a week lesson. So, like a once a week therapy. If you're not practicing stuff through the week, you're not going to get much better. And really, having good relationships, it is a skill. It 100% is a skill, and so it can be learned, but it needs to be approached in um, that same mindset of, okay, like, I need the skill of having good relationships, and so to do that, I need to practice. I need to learn the skill. I need to practice it. Okay, so a lot of times there's a lack of focus on that. A lot of people will not say, hey, this is a skill, and here are the elements that you need to learn and the skills you need to build to be good at relationships. They don't approach it that way. And so, yeah. The other thing you can get is a lack of foundation in God. And so, for all that, let's say you have a good couples counselor who focuses on skill building and all that. If you don't have the foundation in God, you're missing something really important. Because if you don't have a strong relationship with God, like, your relationship with other people will never be enough. I promise you that. It will not. Like, you need to have that strong relationship with God as your base. And then from feeling that love of God, you're able to share love with your wife, with your kids. You're not as moody. You're not as needy, right? Because you feel full from God. Okay. And the rest of things go well. Now, your pastor or someone might tell you that, but they may not have a clear system for you to follow to help you build that foundation. And that's what we do in our program. So what you need to do is to have a great marriage in 2025 and beyond, and set a great example for generations to follow. Have connection, love, kissing, hugging, great sex, all of that. First step, build a strong foundation in God. Feel good about yourself. Know that He accepts you as you are, right? And the way I like to look at it is, when we say, hey, like, I'm going to follow God, I'm going to follow Christ in my life, that's like being accepted to the school. Okay, so you're in. I went to medical school, and it's hard to get into medical school. But once you're there, everybody's rooting for you, right? Everybody wants you to succeed. They're going to help you learn the skills you need to be a good doctor. And, I look at, saying I believe in Christ in the same way. They're like, yes, you're in, man. Okay, now, like, you're in. Let's help you. Let's help you become the kind of person God has in mind for you. I like the phrase, like, more of who you actually are, kind of unlocking who you really are. So how do I define a strong relationship with God? I think the way I'm defining it right now that I really like is having a personal conversational relationship. So if you're having regular conversations with God, you feel like you're talking to Him, He's talking to you, He's helping direct you in the little things in your life. That's what we're going for, okay? And feeling that love from Him and acceptance from Him. Okay. So if you're there, right? So yeah, knowing God accepts and loves you as you are, right? So again, you're in God's school at that point. He wants you to have great relationships. He absolutely does, right? So Jesus says eternal life is to know God and to know Him. Okay, this life eternal, to know, God and Jesus Christ, who you have sent, who He's sent. So it's about relationship. It's about knowing God, and in the scriptures, knowing is like that intimate, personal, close relationship. Being in God as He's in me, right? That's what He's asking for His disciples and other places. So He wants you to have great relationships with Him, with other people. That's what makes life rich. That's what makes life great. So once you have God as your foundation, now the next step is you need to use the best tools and techniques for behavior change and relationships. And this is where all of these school of psychology and psychiatry and coaching can come in and help you, right? So you've got God as your foundation. You've built that close relationship with Him. You feel loved. You feel connected. Okay, now you're in the school. Now let's learn some skills. Okay, let's learn how to do this. So we need to actually rewire your brain to teach you how to do this, okay? And it's really just 3 steps. Step 1, you have to identify the negative patterns in your relationships that are getting you poor results. So we talked about, for example, the mosquito cycle. Happy life, it's getting you poor results. So step 2, you have to replace those with positive, attractive patterns, right? So maybe that's speaking up for yourself if you're not, making requests, setting boundaries, serving your wife, those kind of things. And then step 3 is you have to practice those new patterns until your brain rewires and you're doing those new attractive patterns on default, okay? So now if you want best results in all this too, what you want to add is add coaching. So someone that can help you actually see those negative patterns, someone who can give you new positive patterns. And then you need accountability to make sure you're practicing those new patterns, right? That's what will speed up that whole process. And if you don't get coaching accountability, oftentimes it's really hard to identify your own negative patterns. It's almost impossible to replace those with positive patterns because your brain can't really generate a new pattern on its own. You need some outside influence to do that. And then to practice, look, I know a lot of you guys, you're hard workers, you're disciplined, you've succeeded in areas in your life, you know how to practice. But there's something that happens when you know someone's kind of waiting on you. I noticed this in my own program, right? Like I teach all this stuff, but it wasn't until I started saying, okay, like I've got to do the same things these guys do. And I knew someone was kind of like waiting for me to do the posts that like I haven't really missed a day since I've known someone was waiting and watching. There's just something different, that happens when you have accountability. It holds you to a higher standard. So again, you want better, faster results, add coaching, add accountability, right? Versus trying to do it on your own. So for a physical example, let's say you want to get in better shape for 2025. Maybe you got that goal too. So step 1 is identify and eliminate ineffective patterns, negative patterns. So for example, overeating and not exercising would be an ineffective pattern if you're trying to get in shape. Step 2, you need to replace those with effective patterns. Okay, eating healthy, exercising. And then step 3, you have to repeat those new patterns until they're your new default, until on default you're eating healthy and exercising regularly. So you can hire a coach, right? What a coach will do is help you choose the best patterns, right? They say, hey, like here's a diet plan, here's an exercise plan, okay? And help you find and think of those new patterns. And then accountability helps you stay on that path. Hey buddy, how many times did you work out this week? What did you eat this week? Show me your food log, right? That helps you get results better and faster than if you're trying to do it on your own. Okay, this is just how your brain works. It's not a reflection on the strength of your character or anything like that. If you're like, well, I should be able to do this on my own. A lot of us as high achieving guys, we have that in our mindset. Well, I should be able to do this on my own. Okay, well, if you were going to do it on your own, you already would have. That's the bottom line. That's one part of it. The other part is like, why not just do what has been shown over and over to be most effective for behavior change, which is to get some coaching and accountability with it. That's just being smart. That's helping you get results faster, okay? So let's say you want a better marriage, okay? Same deal. Step 1, you need to identify and eliminate ineffective patterns. So, for example, not listening very well to your wife, or having the mosquito cycle, invalidation, triple threat. We've talked about that on previous episodes. Step 2, we have to replace those with effective patterns. So listening, and something that I'm calling the power cycle now instead of the mosquito cycle. And step 3, you got to practice. You got to repeat those new patterns until they're your new default. Because look, you're going to go back to negative patterns at times as you're learning, right? It's like if you're shooting a basketball, if you had bad form and someone teaches you the new form, Like, you're going to go back to the bad form unless you practice the new form lots of times. Okay. Got to practice. So again, coaching is going to help you choose the best patterns. In marriage too, it's especially difficult sometimes to identify your own negative patterns. So what we do in the program is we help you see those, right? And also it's pretty hard to think of new patterns sometimes. So we're going to help you do that. Okay. This year too, we're going to start, finding ways to incorporate like AI into this. That's going to be really cool. We're going to have this year be a little bit more community based. So you're going to have a little more accountability built in. It's going to be kind of a different program in a lot of ways starting in 2025. Price is going to be different. More of a group mentality with it. So with the goal of having 500 people come in this year. So that's the goal. We want 500 guys to be there, to be enjoying their marriages, to be setting that example for generations to follow. So yeah, we want you to come join. We want you to tell your friends, and just help us have better marriages and better examples across the world. As Christians, we want to be that light to the world. That's the goal of this. Okay. So so the power cycle. What the power cycle is feeling God's love for me, right? And then sharing that love with my wife, my kids, and other people, right? Next, we'll reflect on our wins and get coaching for improvement as we're interacting with our wife and kids. Okay, then we're going to feel gratitude, and we're going to feel love from others. It's accountability, right? And being in our group. And then that's going to help us feel more of God's love for you. And that's just a power cycle, right? Love is the most powerful thing. I'm a guy who's like a red personality. Power is important to me. And look, if you want to really be powerful, you want to be loving, right? The only thing that can really conquer hate really is love. Right? Hate doesn't conquer hate. That's what the scripture talks about. Like you've heard an eye for an eye, but I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you. Why? Because it's a better way to live, but also like that's more powerful. It really is. Okay. And when you're giving love to others, it just so happens that's the most likely thing for them to also return love to you. Right? Because it's easy. It's easy for someone to love someone that loves them. You're trying to make it easy on people to love you. Right? We don't want to make it hard on people to love us. So what are the skills you need? You need to build a strong conversational relationship with God, right? You need to build a loving relationship with yourself. That takes practice. That takes skill building, both of these things. You want to build a loving relationship with your wife, your kids, and others, right? What does that require? Communication skills, intimacy skills, okay? It's going to take coaching and accountability to do this quickly and most effectively, right? Being humble enough to say, hey, I can't do this on my own. I do need some help. You want some community, to help support you and do this. Right? So doing this, it leads to strong, loving relationships with God, yourself, your wife, and your kids. Sets the example for generations to follow, and really, being that light to the world that we're talking about. So come be that man with us. Come join with us. Have those great relationships forever. Be that example. Okay, join us in Strong Men, Strong Marriages. We're a goal 500 guys this year. Okay, the first open is at the end of January here. So come over to strongmen.io, join the email list. Okay, it's going to be a monthly subscription program. We've priced it low that anybody can do it. Okay, we want, again, 500 guys. Okay, because what happens if there's 500 guys? That expands out to maybe, let's say they'll have 2 kids on average. Okay, that's now 1,000 people that see what a good marriage looks like. That expands out exponentially. And look, we want as many guys as we can to have this great relationship with God, with their kids, with their wife. Explode that out to the world. Really preparing the world for the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's what we're trying to do here. So if that mission resonates with you, come join us. Strongmen.io, join the email list. That's the only way you're going to hear about joining the program. All right, so stay strongmen. Visit strongmen.io, join the email list, and join us in the program when it opens in January, at the end of January. All right, stay strongmen. We will see you next episode.